everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today, we've got kind of an interesting video. At least I hope it will be interesting. Today we're going over the 5 worst knives I've ever reviewed on the channel. This was a topic that was suggested by a viewer. I can't remember who it was because I couldn't find the screenshot I took of the comment before I sat down to film. If I find that screenshot, I'll put it in while I'm editing. I'm pretty sure it was Chase Wells. This seems like the kind of video he would request. So if it was you, Chase, shout out to you. If it was someone else, make yourself known in the comments. But this is kind of an interesting topic to me, and I finally decided to make this video because while cleaning out the back of my truck, the bed of my truck, I found one of the worst knives I've ever reviewed. And I figured this would be a good time to make this video. Another thing to get out of the way. These are the worst knives I've ever reviewed, but these aren't necessarily the worst knives I've ever handled, right? I've handled some pretty atrocious knives, but I choose not to review them because there's really not a point. And most of these knives are like Imtex and, Tac Force type of knives. But sometimes a knife deserves a review, even when it's bad. And when I review a bad knife, it's because of a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a knife that I think is popular, either with the knife community or, more often, regular people, like the regular Joe knife users. I've reviewed a couple of knives that are just terrible, but I see them in people's pockets all the time. So I want to make, I want to do my part in saving people from their terribility. I'm pretty sure that's a Nick Shabazz word, terribility. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I stole that from Nick Shabazz. He doesn't have copyright on that though, does he? The other reason I review a bad knife is because it's a knife that I thought was going to be cool, and it turned out to not be that way. And when I buy a knife thinking it's going to be cool and it sucks, I'm definitely going to give it a review because I'm disappointed in it. So let's go ahead and take a look at these bad knives. We're going to start off with a very early knife. This is the Gerber Asada. I reviewed this knife very early in my YouTube career, and this was probably the first bad knife that I reviewed. This knife has a lot of issues, but one of the things that it has going for it is charisma. I think this is a very cool looking knife. I really like this cleaver blade, how we have kind of swoop in here. It just makes the blade have a little more character, a little more personality. I was really into the looks of this knife. And then I got it and I started using it, and this knife sucks. It really sucks. The ergonomics are not terrible. You can choke up in that choil back there. You can get back here. Not great ergos because we do have sharp edges here. We'll talk about those sharp edges again in a little bit. The blade is not the worst thing ever. It does cut. It's a full flat grind, not a particularly thin edge. 7CR steel on these ones. Wah, wah. But there were some Blade HQ exclusives running around for a while with D2. The stonewash on the blade is nice. And I think that's just about all the praise I can give it. Hardware sucks. Absolutely garbage hardware. It's very prone to stripping. It's very soft and just bad hardware. The pocket clip is not great. It's good ergonomically, like it doesn't bother me in the hand, but it does not work in and out of the pocket. The little pinch plate here, we'll talk about this here in a little bit, but you see it kind of has this texturing, but it's not really texturing. It's just cheap. It has no texture at all. But the worst thing about this knife is the lock bar. And I'll give you guys some close-ups of this. The lock bar is locking out at about 80 to 90%. And it's just a very thin little blade that you jam your thumb against. Painful, painful, painful. The action on this thing is not the best. And with that lock bar, oh my gosh, disengaging this thing just hurts. It really hurts because you have to push that lock bar really far over, and it takes a little bit of pressure, and you can see the mark it's leaving on my thumb. Just an absolute dumpster fire of a knife, and yeah, very, very bad. So next we're going to move on to one that's related, and this is a recently reviewed knife, and it might be recency bias that made me put it on this list, but this knife really did piss me off, and that is the Gerber Mini Sada. Now, this has a lot of improvements over this piece of garbage, but it's still pretty terrible. This is the best knife that's on the list today, but that's not saying a whole lot. So things I do like the way this knife looks. I like this pop of red. I like the green aluminum. The blade shape is very interesting. It's D2 steel. They're using a real steel. The texturing and the milling on this aluminum is really, really nice. This pinch plate, remember I was talking about the texturing on this one's just really cheap and has absolutely no texture at all. On this one, it's actually really, really nice. That's basically what I like. Oh, and the ergonomics are fine. I guess the ergonomics work out all right. As for the bad stuff, so the action is not great. Now, I have done some tinkering with this in the month since I did the review, as of the time of this recording, and the action is actually a lot better. The flipping action, at least, kind of. So I guess that's a plus, but the action out of the box was awful. It was gritty. This flipper tab is terrible. It's small and it slopes the wrong direction. The jimping is not sharp enough. Your finger just slips off of there. You gotta be really, really deliberate about what you're doing. You can see here on the close, it's very tight and not very satisfying. This has an interesting system in the pivot that Gerber came up with. You have like basically a little T5 in here where you can adjust this set screw and control how much you can screw in this pivot screw right here. And that's supposed to be able to adjust the tightness of your action without messing with the blade centering or anything like that. I'm not sure how well that system works because the first time I tried to use it, that T5 screw stripped out, which was incredibly frustrating. Now, I have been able to put some, some drive grit in there, and I've been able to adjust it very slightly just a little bit ago, and I think it helped, but it's a far cry from making up for the badness of it. The pocket clip is terrible. Once again, very similar to this clip. Just do not care for it at all. And the lock bar axis, again, it's improved, but it still sucks. It still really, really sucks. The thing that I think pisses me off the most about this knife is that it had a lot of potential, and I could tell that Gerber kind of tried with this one, but they just fell short. They're asking, Blade HQ has this for like 45 bucks. If you see this in like a brick and mortar store, they're going to be anywhere from like 50 to 60 bucks. Do not buy it. Just don't. Oh, and the other thing with this guy that was really, really awful was the blade performance. Holy cow. The grind on this is so off. You'll remember from the review. If you've ever wanted to know why I use the mediums that I use for my review cutting, watch the review of this knife. This knife absolutely failed the pool noodle cut. I get questions about that a lot. People be like, oh, what, has a knife ever not been able to cut the pool noodle? Yeah, so we showed in that video, this knife was razor sharp, had a very sharp apex. We were whittling receipt paper, but when it came to the pool noodle, the geometry on this blade was so bad that it could not part that foam neatly, and it just hung up and it got bound and it made these big wavy jagged cuts. It was terrible. And that's why I do review cutting. It's demonstration cutting to show you guys what a blade can do. And in this case, the blade was just no bueno. So there is that knife. All right, so let's take a break from Gerber's. Notice that I said a break. And let's talk about another somewhat recently reviewed knife. the SOG cash card. This was sent into the channel by Old Tonto Guy, and I'm pretty sure that he was trying to torture me with this. I absolutely hate this knife. I hate it so much. The blade play on this is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Can you see that blade just wiggling around? Feels so janky. This jimping up here is basically a saw. In fact, I think in the review, we did use that jimping as a saw. You can see here, our lockup is at like 110%. Got this big, ugly pocket clip. Super thin, so the ergonomics on this thing just aren't. To be fair, it's better than I would expect, but that's not saying much at all. The blade technically cuts, but the whole thing is just stupid and ridiculous. I don't understand the application for this type of knife. Yeah, I don't like it at all. Not one little bit. And honestly, there's not really much more to say. It's just not a good knife. I don't think it's a good tool. I just don't see it fitting into anyone's EDC. With these two knives, these are obviously trying to be EDC knives, and if they were done well, I could see them being great EDC knives. Even if this was done well, I don't think I would like it. You know, it could be titanium and M390, rock solid lockup, buttery smooth action, which this thing doesn't have a terrible action. It's just like completely loose. Even if this knife was built to the highest tolerances, I don't think I would like it just because I don't like this design at all. I don't like these big finger grooves here. I don't like how thin it is. For me, if I grab the knife right here, this little corner bites into my palm really, really badly. It's not good. It's not good. It's not a knife that I would ever recommend. It's a design that I think just sucks. It should never have been made. So there's that. The next knife we're going to talk about, I actually don't have with me right now. Most of these knives I have with me because obviously I'm not going to give these knives away. If it's a knife that I think is trash, I'm not going to give it away to you guys. I'm not going to give it away to a friend or family member. I'm definitely not going to try and sell it to someone. So yeah, they tend to stick around, unfortunately. But the knife that we're talking about right now is the Gerber Swagger. I hated this knife so much. It had a lot of problems. Lock rock was absolutely off the charts on this knife. The grind and the sharpening job was horrendous. The pocket clip was bad. The overall design was just uninspired. The action sucked. But what annoyed me the most about it was that I was seeing them on sale at like Home Depot, Lowe's, things like that for $42. Around that $42 price point. Absolutely unacceptable. I think you could buy them on Blade HQ for like $15 for a while, maybe even now. They're not even worth $15. And so selling them for $40 was thievery. And then to make matters worse, I went and looked up reviews of this knife, like on like product reviews on like Home Depot's website, Gerber's website, things that people had written. And people are like, oh, this knife is so good. This, blah, blah, blah. I take this into the jungle and I just smelled bullshit. And so I had to review that knife. And it's a terrible knife. It's a really, really terrible knife. Just stay away from the Gerber Swagger, please. It's overpriced. If they were selling the Gerber Swagger for like $9 to $10, something like that, at Home Depot, fine. I would actually be a little bit more okay with it. For a $10 knife, it'd probably be all right. For $40? No freaking way, Jose. No. Okay, but that's all I'm going to say about the Swagger. The last knife is the worst knife. I think this is actually the worst knife I've ever reviewed. And this is a little bit of an older video. And I didn't think I had this knife anymore. But this was the knife that I found in the back of my truck. I had this little toolbox back there. And this guy was in the bottom of that. This is the Gerber ripstop. Or at least what's left of it. I hated this knife so much that at the end of its review, I shot it with a shotgun.
And don't worry, guys, this is a YouTube-friendly Joe Biden home defense tool. Alright, let's see if we can go and find this piece of crap. There he is. What?
Is that all you got, loser?
Yeah, that's not good. Well, folks, there you have it. There was our review of the Gerber ripstop. Don't buy one.
And that right there should be enough to tell you my thoughts on this piece of garbage. It's a piece of garbage. Just awful. Awful. So the blade that's now mostly missing, it was serrated most of the way, and then there was like just a little bit of sharpened edge out here. Ugly looking knife, ugly as sin. You can see they have like this kind of like half handle thing. So this scale or this part of the frame back here only goes right there. And this is the frame lock, which no longer does anything. So when you're holding this knife, that is what you're up against. Just this thin piece of metal. Super uncomfortable. The over travel stop for the lock bar was actually this little flange on the pocket clip, which does not work anymore. Probably because it got shot, but you know, I wouldn't trust it anyways. It was just a horrendous knife, and I'd recommend checking out my video on it. And that's all I'm going to say. You know, I think I actually need to insert into the video here that I did not make this video with the sole intent of just shitting all over Gerber. I know that 4 of the 5 knives in this video, 4 of the 5 knives I consider to be the worst I've ever reviewed, are from Gerber. But this video was not intended to be a hit piece against them. But Gerber, guys, come on. Like, step it up. Holy crap, guys. The worst knives I've ever handled are from Gerber. It's not hard to do. Gerber, you need to start being more like Camillus. I love Camillus. They do it right. And their prices are right. This is a $15 knife, and it's better than most of the things that Gerber makes. So, Gerber, this is to you. Shape up. For the rest of you, until those godless clucks over at Gerber start stepping up their game, just don't buy Gerber. Just don't buy Gerber. You would literally be better off with a butter knife in your pocket than some kind of atrocity made by Gerber. In fact, it's getting so bad that I think Gerber is getting close to committing hate crimes against the knife community. Gerber, I'm begging you. Stop. Well, and there you have it, guys. Those are the worst knives I have ever reviewed. If you can think of a knife that's worse, or if you can think of a really bad knife that I've reviewed that didn't make it onto this list, tell me in the comments below. And also tell me what the worst knife you've ever owned / handled is. I would be really curious to know. But that's it for today. Big shout out to my channel members right here at the Cowboy level. I appreciate everything they do. If you want to become a member and get access to exclusive perks, there is a button down below. One of the exclusive perks is members only giveaway, so wink. And I promise I will not be giving away things like this. Alrighty, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment below, and subscribe. I've been Gideon, and I will see you in the next one. Adios.